it. Success. So, welcome everyone. I'm going to introduce myself and the lovely MaKenna that I have here with me. Thanks for your patience working out the tech. So, on Freedom Day, we're trying out some new things. So, I am tech fluent, not tech savvy, but we figured it out. So, my name is Esperanza. I am the proud CEO and lead therapist of Hope is Here Counseling and Consulting. I'm here in Blue Ash, Ohio. So, welcome to all of you wherever you may be. And this is MaKenna.
Hello, I'm MaKenna.
She is my new student counselor. We're so excited to have her with me. I'm checking all of our alerts. All of the things are happening. um, so we'll start just sharing a little bit about ourselves and then kind of jump in our topic for today. We are counselors, obviously. I work with primarily um, children and adults, more of like the school age children, the teens, and adults of all ages, and work with creative people and other counselors and entrepreneurs. That is a little bit of my jam. And most issues like anxiety and depression, trauma, grief. What about you, MaKenna?
Let's see. I work with children, adolescents, and adults for a range of different presenting issues like anxiety, depression. I also enjoy working with other helping professions such as teachers or counselors. I'm a former teacher, so teachers are very dear to my heart.
Likewise.
Mm-hmm.
I saw a very funny meme the other day that said, if you read Chicken Soup for the Soul growing up, what profession are you now? And I had just a great time reading the comments because we were all teachers and counselors and the Save the World type. So, yeah.
Yeah, all the warm and fuzzies from those.
Yeah, for sure. So today is Juneteenth, and we're going to be talking about mental health and freedom, and I've got a few questions for us. It's kind of some harder topics that we're going to be talking about today, so I've just kind of thrown MaKenna right into the deep end, but I know she's game for it. But an easier question, since this is a holiday and a newly national federal holiday, which is pretty exciting, so I hope everyone is enjoying hopefully a day off. Obviously, it is a day on for us, but we enjoy serving. What is your favorite holiday food? Because I'm all about eating. That's like my jam.
Favorite holiday food for any holiday?
Any holiday. Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. This past Christmas, my dad made this insanely good prime rib.
Oh.
And it was the first time we had ever done prime rib for Christmas dinner. We usually do a ham or a turkey, but my dad was just like, I'm doing something new this year. And it was amazing. And I hope that becomes our new tradition.
Yeah.
It was delicious.
Yeah, I'm going to pick a meat option too. At first, I was thinking about mac and cheese. But if I'm honest, I eat mac and cheese more than I do. So it's not just a holiday food for me. I have to work on that. But for me, it would be duck. Because my mom used to make duck for Christmas. And I'd be like waiting all year. Like, yes, this is the life, the dream. So that is my favorite holiday food for sure. Yeah. So today is Juneteenth, and for those of you that don't know, because it wasn't a holiday that I grew up celebrating with my family or my community, so it's something I learned about as I got older. But it is, as some people have been calling it, Freedom Day. It is a day where we're celebrating freedom, and particularly for the Black community. As we know, unfortunately, there's slavery in this country. And on June 19th, which is why we celebrate on this particular day, in 1865, one of the last cities in the country, in Galveston, Texas, were the last to hear the news that slavery slavery was over. And so when they heard the news about like 2 years after it was announced, um, they obviously celebrated. And so, slavery is very brutal, very traumatic, very difficult, and we're celebrating the end of any kind of oppression.
Mm-hmm.
So that is what Juneteenth is for those of you not in the know or kind of were learning about it as you were older. And so in Texas, they have really kept that tradition alive every year, celebrating on June 19th, the end of slavery. So that's what Juneteenth is. Did you learn about it growing up or anything like that?
No, I honestly didn't really know what it was until maybe a few years ago. I
Mm-hmm.
want to say, I think when I was training to be a teacher
Mm-hmm.
is when I actually got my first Juneteenth off because we were training over the summer and we got the
Mm-hmm.
day off and I was really confused why.
Yeah, yeah.
And then they just shared a little bit more about what it meant, and then I think that was the year that it actually became a federal holiday.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, very cool. When you think about freedom, what does it mean to you? I'll go 1st.
Mm-hmm.
Um, when I think about freedom, it is really being able to be yourself um, in whatever space that you are with whatever whoever you're with. I know for lots of people, for a variety of different reasons, really feeling like they have to twist themselves or code switch and can't say what they want or do what they want. Sometimes even things as simple as like clothing can be very restrictive for people or feeling like they have to dress a certain way. So for me, freedom is like the ability to be able to um, be yourself without penalty, you know.
Mm-hmm. I was gonna say something similar. I was gonna
Mm-hmm.
say just the unrestricted ability to express yourself in terms of clothing or words, beliefs, things like that. Just the ability to live your truth and live your life.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. And definitely, we've experienced in a lot of different ways how um, people will oppose on other people's freedom, different laws that restrict freedoms. And we know that laws are necessary to have a civil society, but we also know that not every law is for the benefit of the greater community. Sometimes they're the benefit of like a certain population. Um, and we also know that not all laws are enforced
Mm-hmm.
equally. Here in the Cincinnati area, many years ago, 2001, I believe, we had like the Cincinnati riots, so they called them. But really, it's more of like a boycott in terms of oppression with the police here in Cincinnati. And they had a citywide curfew. And I definitely know lots of conversations with friends and observations with different people about how it wasn't enforced, equally.
Mm-hmm.
My other kind of thought is um, how like the crossover between like that restriction of freedom and like mental health. But I think it would be good to kind of think about what does mental health mean. Obviously, we have a bias as as counselors about the importance of mental health. Um, and when I think about that word, before I was a counselor, I often thought about mental health like a bad thing, of like some sort of like dysfunction. We hear the word mental health issues like all the time, which is more on the negative. But health by itself is a more positive thing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and when I think about what that is to me, it is the ability to be able to think clearly, to make decisions that are good for you, and to be able to have a functioning life, healthy relationships, and be able to have like a good thought process, to feel good about yourself and your life. But what is mental health to you?
I used to think of it like super black and white. Either I feel great or I don't.
Mm-hmm.
I'm anxious or I'm not.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so I think mental health is just kind of like the upkeep of the beliefs that you have about yourself. You know, like I'm a
Mm-hmm.
good person, I'm a good friend.
Mm-hmm.
Making sure you are maintaining those positive beliefs about yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And not letting the false beliefs maybe of like I can't do this or I'm not good enough take over and kind of control your brain in that way.
Yeah, yeah, that's a very good point.
Mm-hmm.
Like your belief system about your
Mm-hmm.
world and about yourself. Yeah, that's very important
Mm-hmm.
to mental health. Thank you for sharing that. In today's society, what type of oppression do you see around you? I know as counselors, we're kind of always looking for the greater good and well being for individuals and for our community. That's why we've gotten to
Mm-hmm.
this field. Um, but obviously, there's things that are not going well. What have you
Mm-hmm.
seen as a counselor and just as a person?
Yeah. I think mental health has become a huge like buzzword in the last few years. And in many communities, mental health is honored, but we're still seeing certain cultures, certain communities where it's not taken seriously or it's considered weakness. Or some communities don't have their mental health taken as seriously as others, or it's just dismissed.
Yeah, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. Yeah, there's been a pretty good awakening in the last few years, and as we know, a lot more to go and a
Mm-hmm.
lot more to be done. But I think even in the mental health field, definitely certain what we would call mental health disorders or
Mm-hmm.
diagnoses, we can see that have not been diagnosed equally across all
Mm-hmm.
populations, and even people being like on purpose diagnosed incorrectly.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and the statistics are very skewed in certain populations in terms of really being construed as having like more mental health issues, and
Mm-hmm.
sometimes that is a reality for different factors that are going on in that particular community, but definitely not um, always accurate for sure. um, I mean, for me, I see um, as a counselor like restriction happening to like access to good care.
Mm-hmm.
I've been a counselor for 11 years now, so time flies when you're having
Yeah.
fun. But I've worked with enough people over the years to really see how medical care does not happen
Mm-hmm.
um, for certain populations.
Definitely.
Um, People, when they're already sick and not doing well, really having to advocate for themselves to get their
Mm-hmm.
questions answered, to get follow up exams and things like that, and to be taken seriously with the health concerns that they have. Um, so I don't really have an ism title for that, but
Mm-hmm.
definitely medical access. I've seen a lot of oppression happen in that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then, of course, all of our isms in terms of sexism and heterosexism and racism
Mm-hmm.
and those things. Um, when you are working with people, and even just in your own um, personal life, um, how do you see maybe some of those isms or oppression that they're experiencing show up in their mental health?
Yeah, great question.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times I feel like it shows up in that they um, don't believe that they can achieve something. They don't think they're worthy of something.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they have a dream or a goal and it forces them to give up or just kind of fold
Yeah. Yeah.
and, fall into those false beliefs that they aren't good enough or that they're,
Mm-hmm.
not deserving of it.
Yeah, yeah, definitely echo the hopelessness
Mm-hmm.
for sure. And it's one thing when you're feeling like, okay, I can't do this because of like the reality of the challenges I'm facing in my life. Um, but then it's even more hard when you like look around at like your
Mm-hmm.
whole community of the people that look like you, whatever, however you're identifying that. And seeing like, yeah, just obstacle after obstacle,
Mm-hmm.
you really can just have like feelings of despair of like, there's no way that this is going to happen for me. Yeah. um, I think in particularly, I've been doing some research these last couple years about how racism in particular affects mental health.
Mm-hmm.
And you see a lot of issues with higher rate of like health issues and
Yeah.
ulcers and heart issues. Um, and very interestingly for me, I kind of already assumed, like, of course, there'd be some health issues because mind, body, spirit, we're all connected. And
Mm-hmm.
so if you're having those mental health challenges, it's going to impact your physical health. But what it was really interesting to me to find out is that not only the person on the receiving end of racism, but also they've starting to do some research on the health issues of the doer,
Mm-hmm.
and also having great health impacts for them too.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Higher mortality rate in those communities that are experiencing racism, um, more like relational stress in
Mm-hmm.
terms of how they're getting along with their peers, their loved ones,
Mm-hmm.
um, and a high state of anxiety, like a hypervigilance, really.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just always on guard.
Yeah,
Yeah, high
yeah,
stress levels always.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, yeah. And um, when you think about um, just basic human necessities, one of them is definitely safety.
Mm-hmm.
And we definitely know that in this country and as well as other places, when you've experienced some racism, that could be a physical threat.
Mm-hmm.
But there's also the emotional, mental,
Definitely.
threat too. Yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen like some people with that fear around, am I safe in this environment with this
Mm-hmm.
place? If the police officer is pulling me over, are they going to be, safe? Am
Mm-hmm.
I going to go to jail unwarrantedly? I don't know if that's a really a word, but unjustified. Is this going to end my life? Right.
Mm-hmm.
And going back to what I said earlier, that high anxiety
Mm-hmm.
that people have about that, I can see themselves kind of shut down and become like in their own little prism and maybe restrict their own freedom,
Mm-hmm.
just in a ways of being safe. I'm curious what kind of restrictions you might have seen again with the people that you work with, or just as you're living your life as MaKenna.
Mm-hmm.
Um, uh, what self restrictions that people put on themselves, kind of taking their own freedoms as a way to kind of compensate for their fear.
Mm-hmm. I think it goes back to having those feelings of hopelessness. If I make a mistake, then I'm not good enough for this promotion.
Mm-hmm.
Or, I didn't get along with that one child, so I could never be a mother.
Yeah.
Taking those situations and trying to apply them to their future,
Mm-hmm.
and just assuming that you can predict the future, which no one can.
Mm-hmm.
And so putting those restrictions on themselves and thinking, because of this, I'll never be able to achieve that, or because this is what society tells me,
Yeah.
I won't be able to live the way that I really want.
Yeah. Yeah. And I want to piggyback off to something that you just said, very important, of people can internalize
Mm-hmm.
those beliefs that society says about them, of like, this is who I am, like, because I'm the thing for me when I was growing up as a wee little lass um, was all about girls were not good at math,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Yeah, so a
Mm-hmm.
lot of that. Super excited to see that that's kind of shifting
Mm-hmm.
now, but yeah, really kind of buying into that of like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, my brain doesn't work that way, or
Mm-hmm.
girls can't do this.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I also was obsessed with, for whatever reason, as a kid, being a truck driver, like a semi truck driver. I don't know. Something about the thought of travel and like traveling and eating at the truck stops. I don't know why that was my lifelong dream to do when I grew up. But definitely got lots of messages about you
Mm-hmm.
can't do that. You're a girl.
Yeah.
Um, and so, I mean, obviously, I don't have any regrets about the path that I took,
Mm-hmm.
but it was not even something that I considered or even think it was an option.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and definitely, the younger that you hear those messages in your community
Mm-hmm.
about what you can and cannot do because of your gender, because of your race, because of your age,
Mm-hmm.
you can buy into that. And I'm even thinking about some clients going again with what you were saying,
Mm-hmm.
that like, oh, I can't apply for this job, I'm too old, or
Mm-hmm.
you know um, I'm going to be the only oldest person in this tech class, and
Mm-hmm.
this is a second career path for me. There's
Mm-hmm.
maybe I shouldn't do this, it'll be weird, it'll be awkward, I don't want to go,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to fit in, those
Mm-hmm.
type of things.
Definitely.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. When you think about those mental health challenges that we face, what are some things that people can do to help get through
Mm-hmm.
those difficult times?
Um, Personally, I think one of the best things you can do is to just admit to what's going on instead of trying to repress those emotions.
Mm-hmm.
For me personally, I struggled with anxiety for a really long time and just refused to really acknowledge what it was. I just
Mm-hmm.
decided that that's how I was, not
Yeah,
necessarily something that was just, you know, trying to affect my brain.
right.
So I think acknowledging it helps, putting it out there, admitting it to yourself, or maybe just talking to a
Yeah,
close friend, a family member about
yeah.
it. Of course, obviously, there's counseling.
Yes,
I'm a little
yes,
biased.
yes, yes.
But that's just one of the ways, I mean, you can go to support groups if you
Mm-hmm.
are looking for people to relate to help you. Um, Maybe there's something in your routine that's throwing you off, maybe looking at your life and thinking, I wonder what's causing this. What could I change to maybe help me, make it through this.
Mm-hmm.
um and then also just always thinking about, what am I doing to take care of myself.
Yeah,
I feel like a
yeah.
lot of times we're all hustling and we're all just kind of like living week to week, and sometimes, you get through the whole day, and if you can't think of one thing you did for yourself,
Yeah,
then, it's good to reevaluate that and see how you
yeah,
can better take care of yourself.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, it definitely, that time, that's crucial.
Mm-hmm.
Ability to be able to say, I'm giving, doing, to my job, to my loved ones, to my children, if you have children,
Mm-hmm.
to your pets.
Mm-hmm.
But what am I doing for myself?
Mm-hmm.
And that self awareness is key.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes, to your point, we could be going and doing so much that we haven't really checked in to see how am I doing, and it's not until
Mm-hmm.
we crash and that we're
Exactly.
like, oh
Exactly.
gosh, I'm not
Yep.
not good. Um, and a fair amount of times, that is how I receive a client, is that they've kind of ran themselves in the ground so
Mm-hmm.
much that they start to have health issues, and they go to their doctor, including panic attacks, and they think they're having a heart attack.
Mm-hmm.
And they'll get examined, and their doctor will recognize this is not really a health issue, a physical health. This is more
Mm-hmm.
of a mental health
Mm-hmm.
issue. And then that's how they ended up starting counseling.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you gave a lot of really great suggestions. I don't know if I have too much to add, in terms of other things that you can do. Um, but really, I guess I'll embellish a little bit on what you said of um, having that support system around you is
Definitely.
really important. And when we talk about things of like isms, and in today we're talking about racism for Juneteenth. Um, Really, community is and family, and family can be a mixed bag, but that
Mhm.
could be family by blood or family that you choose.
Mhm.
Um, can be really important of helping you acknowledge the reality of the situation. Sometimes with different situations of racism, like the good in your heart like almost doesn't want to believe that this is what's really happening,
Mhm.
and you can second guess yourself, or sometimes even second guess another person that's sharing
Yeah.
with you their experience of like, no, I know
Mhm.
that person, they're real chill with me, and so
Yeah.
there's no way that that could possibly be.
Yep.
Not realizing that people are, we're not all good, we're not all bad,
Mhm.
and people can make choices that can be harmful to others.
Mhm.
So, but yeah, that community support to help you get through those times can be helpful. And I even know like that has been very helpful for me as a Black woman.
Mhm.
My community supporting me those times that I've experienced
Mhm.
racism, unfortunately.
Mhm.
You know, in terms of freedom itself,
Mhm.
um, if you feel like um, you have self restricted your freedom in
Mhm.
trying to compensate for those challenges that you're experiencing, or someone's oppressing you with your freedom, what is your thoughts on how people can gain their freedom back and
Mhm.
be able to advocate for themselves?
Yeah. Well, speaking from personal experience, one of the, um, false ideas that I internalized at a young age was that, like women weren't meant to be leaders. We weren't meant
Mm-hmm.
to, have super high powered careers. We could have a career, but then once a child came, that was it. And
Yeah.
just remember thinking, I'm fine with both of those. I just didn't realize that I didn't get to choose.
Right.
I,
Right.
I didn't realize it was one or the other.
Yeah.
So I think the last few years of my life have been undoing those beliefs and just
Mm-hmm.
recognizing that, I'm able to choose which route I'd like to take. I can do both. I can,
Yeah.
do a little of each. And so to kind of regain that freedom, I did a lot of reading. I read a lot of
Mm-hmm.
like women that I just felt like were like minded like me and just
Mm-hmm.
wanted to see their thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
I love podcasts.
Yes, me too.
Love a good podcast. I
Yes.
try to listen to one or two self growth ones every week.
Mm-hmm.
And again, it's all about just like getting different ideas out there and listening and just taking what you want from each one, and then eventually you'll kind of build a new belief that so now I'm like, well, I know I can do either.
Mm-hmm.
I can choose what I want.
Yeah.
So it takes time. I think also patience with yourself.
Yes.
It takes a
Yes.
lot of time. This hasn't been done overnight.
Yeah.
I think I first really recognized this. I think when I was in college, and then I was like, oh, I don't really know what to do with this right now.
Yeah.
So it definitely takes time, and it takes a lot of patience with yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but but yeah, I've regained that sense of like my gender doesn't define my future and what I want to do with my life.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, so really kind of challenging those negative beliefs, kicking
Mhm.
them to the curb, and sounds like resourcing yourself
Yep.
with other individuals that have the values or beliefs that you aspire to, and getting more knowledge for yourself.
Mhm.
Yeah. Um, I mean, my suggestion in terms of like reclaiming, your freedom for yourself, um, would be one, having healthy boundaries.
Mhm.
Um, we know that sometimes if you're not in safe spaces, um, sometimes we have the ability to
Mhm.
just not be in those spaces,
Mhm.
or challenge the leadership in those spaces. And sometimes we're kind of stuck, especially when I think about like the all the isms that happen
Mhm.
in the workplace in particular,
Mhm.
because most people need to work. Um, but really kind of considering what are my rights and not backing down from them and holding, fast to them and having boundaries of, no matter
Mm-hmm.
what, I'm going to allow myself to be safe and take the whatever means
Mm-hmm.
necessary to be able to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I also think to be able to regain that freedom of that, really adopting, we talk about challenging negative beliefs, but
Mm-hmm.
adopting, embracing the belief that I'm worth it. Like
Mm-hmm.
I'm a human being and I'm valuable just because I'm me, not because of anything in particular, but
Mm-hmm.
because I'm me.
Mm-hmm.
And really embracing that and knowing that everyone deserves to be free and be able to live their life without harm coming to them.
Mm-hmm.
And recognizing that's no different for you or anyone else.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah. Um, Thinking about counseling, um, again, racism is such a huge topic
Mm-hmm.
and issue that people experience. And sometimes people can feel like this issue is too big for me to address either in my personal life,
Mm-hmm.
and definitely not worth going to counseling because going to counseling is not going to end racism. Um, but what might you say as a counselor
Mm-hmm.
would be the benefit if you're experiencing some sort of racial trauma or racism
Mm-hmm.
or any of the other isms? How do you think counseling might help with that when
Mm-hmm.
it's just such a big societal issue?
Mm-hmm. I think counseling gives a space for everyone. It gives
Mm-hmm.
an opportunity for everyone to voice what they need and talk it all out.
Mm-hmm.
It gives them that however chunk of time to the floor is theirs. The floor is yours.
Mm-hmm.
You can talk it out, and then you might have a lot of thoughts and just feel really jumbled about it. And as counselors, our job is to help you sort through them
Yeah.
and pick out what we think is important and help you kind of recognize maybe what some of your bigger issues there are,
Mm-hmm.
and just to talk it all out. And again, like you said, it's not going to solve the bigger issue, but it can help you feel more equipped and more empowered to
Yes.
take it on every single day and give you more courage.
Yes, absolutely. Like, and that's really the key. That feeling that sense of strength within yourself, and feeling like, okay, this is my game plan on how I want to
Mm-hmm.
deal with this issue. Having a third party that can validate your
Mm-hmm.
experience and also give you another perspective on the situation, on how you might handle it, and supporting you and taking a step back on like, how am I coping with this, and are those ways I'm dealing with the situation beneficial to me.
Mm-hmm.
um, Being able to sort out what's in your control and not in your control.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're experiencing such extreme difficulty, your mind can be a little jumbled and you can feel like, well, nothing's
Mm-hmm.
in my control,
Mm-hmm.
or I can totally handle
Mm-hmm.
all every aspect of this. And so to be able to separate that out and kind of maybe reevaluate
Mm-hmm.
what's in your control or not, and taking those steps towards the things that are in your control, that can contribute to your well-being, to your safety,
Mm-hmm.
right? On how you want to handle that situation, and having a support. um, Counseling is different than having a friend or loved one,
Definitely.
um, but it's a little similar in that it's someone that it cares about your well-being, which a
Mm-hmm.
loved one does. And the difference though is that um, uh, that ability to kind of see the situation because we're not in the situation.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of time our loved ones love us so much that they're not biased about the situation. They might say, you know what you should do, just punch them in the face, like, right? And they're like, yeah, that's great.
Mm-hmm.
And as a counselor, we can say like, well, that's an option that you're free to decide, but maybe let's consider some other options. How will that be helpful for
Yeah.
you? and maybe it will be. Maybe you'll feel a
Mm-hmm.
lot better, but what are possible consequences to
Yeah.
that? So, so having another pair of, eyes and brain
Mm-hmm.
on a situation, I definitely believe that, two brains are better than one.
For sure.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I just want to thank you so much for joining
Of
me to
course.
talk about this important topic today. We are accepting new clients. If something that we talked about today resonated with you, and so MaKenna
Mm-hmm.
will be happy to
Mm-hmm.
work with you, or any other issues that you are facing, where would love to be part of that support system for you.
Mm-hmm.
You can contact us on our website, which is www.hopeishere.co, not .com, .co. And so all of our contact information is there, and a little bit more about MaKenna. If you're wanting to schedule an appointment, we would encourage you to
Mm-hmm.
step into freedom of whatever it is that you are struggling with, knowing it doesn't have to stay that way, and that you can have the change and, again, freedom for your life. So
Mm-hmm.
I hope everyone, again, is celebrating today and catching some sunshine wherever you are, spending time with friends, loved ones. And if you're working, that you're not working too hard.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll see y'all next time. Bye.